And we're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, the podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and we are going to talk about a couple of remarkable brands that have chosen not to franchise. And one of those brands is both of these brands are pretty regionalized. We're going to talk about QuickTrip, which is my favorite convenience store of all time. Headquarters is based out of Oklahoma, highly concentrated in the Midwest. And then we're also going to talk about In-N-Out Burger, highly concentrated on the West Coast and not available in the Midwest I think they recently opened in Colorado. So that's about as close to our headquarters as they get. So let's talk about QuickTrip first. If you've never been to a QuickTrip, here's your experience. You're going to walk in. You're going to be treated quickly. They have like the fastest POS terminals. They have the fastest clerks. Employees that have worked there, they typically have their longevity on their name badges, and it is very typical to find people who've worked there for multiple decades. They provide exemplary benefits. Like really, they control the entire experience from end to end, and have decided deliberately not to expand via franchising. And I think that's a smart move for them. The service types of jobs, getting somebody to work in a convenience store or gas station, that's a hard proposition. And if you were to take that same business model and try to franchise it, I don't believe that you would have the same longevity that you see that is really one of the cornerstones of why they are a remarkable business. And you got to think about the fact that if your person who's checking you out has done that tens of thousands of times, they're going to be super fast. They're going to be super efficient, and they're going to provide a very predictable experience for you every single time. QuickTrip also has this fun thing where they try to give you the last word as you're walking out of their locations. So that's one of their things. They always try and say, hey, have a great day. And so if you ever want to play a game with them, they don't play it super hard, but I always try to get the last word out as I'm leaving. So that's a fun little game that you can do there. When it comes to In-N-Out Burger, highly concentrated on the West Coast, again, they've taken the approach of basically controlling the entire experience. And I think there's something to be said for that. As a franchise advocate, I'm always talking about the things that I think are very positive around this business model. But there's some trade-offs. There genuinely are. If you have everybody working for the same company, like legal company, versus everybody working for individual operators in different locations throughout the United States or throughout the world, you're going to have less control. That is one of the things that as a franchisor is challenging. It's why we have like compliance departments and things like that to make sure that message and the product and the service and all those things go and provide an exemplary level of service just as the innovators of the system had intended. And you do lose control with that. And I think that's probably why companies like QuickTrip, like In-N-Out Burger, and there's a whole slew of others out there that are just these remarkable organizations, have chosen not to franchise. And so it's one of those things that I like to bring this up because we do talk about franchising a ton on the show, but know that owning the locations and expanding that way, sure, it's more capital intensive, but long term, if you're playing a super long game, you do have more control over how your product or service is delivered in the marketplace. And there are a couple of key players out there that you could model yourself after if that's one of those paths that you decide to go down. Keep your eyes open. Like every time you go to a cool business or you have a remarkable experience, look them up, see if they're a franchise or not. You'd be surprised at how many businesses are, but furthermore, you'd be surprised at how many brands that you're familiar with have decided not to package up their own intellectual property and share it with others and decide to keep it for themselves. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and I have two asks. Number one, love it if you subscribe. And number two, if you enjoyed the show, would love to hear your feedback in terms of a review. Until next time, I hope that you have a phenomenal week and be well.